Today on the Tearsheet Podcast.
The big revolution that has been happening in Brazil is already starting to happen, is already actually happening, but in an more initial phase in other countries. And we want to be part of that growth and the development of these markets. So yeah, we're expanding and we're seeing ourselves in a couple of years as being ever more relevant in LATAM as a whole.
Welcome to the Tearsheet Podcast. I'm Tearsheet Editor-in-Chief, Zack Miller. Embedded finance is powering the launch of all kinds of new companies and products around the world. Brazil-based Conductor is a digital banking and payments platform. It processes 1 billion payment transactions annually, totaling over $20 billion in payment volume, and serves over 250 clients with more than 85 million cards. The company is expanding throughout Latin America and just raised a $150 million investment round. Chief Strategy Officer Marcelo Jacques joins me on the podcast to discuss the company's expansion plans throughout the region, including how it will compete against foreign embedded finance platforms entering Latin America. Marcelo Jacques is my guest today on the Tearsheet Podcast.
Thanks for the invite, Zach. Great to talk to you. So my name is Marcelo. I'm Chief Strategy Officer at Conductor today. I've been with the company now for almost 4 years. Mm-hmm. I worked in investment banking here in Brazil and financial consultancy. And basically my role here is focusing on helping the company focusing on expansion into new markets, new products, and also M&A and investor relations. So in a nutshell, wow. And others. We always, in Conductor, we always have and others but at the end of our role, because everyone does a lot of things. So
you wear a lot of hats. So for the listeners who aren't familiar with Conductor, can you describe what Conductor does?
Sure. So Conductor is a payments infrastructure provider in Brazil and Latin America. We started our business as an issuer processor, processing from all types of cards from different networks, private label cards, prepaid debit, credit, you name it. And we evolved our offering to expand and offer more solutions within the payments value chain. So today we offer payments processing, be it issuer processing or acquire processing. We offer banking as a service. In Brazil, we actually have inside Conductor a regulated entity called DOC, which is our subsidiary and is responsible for offering our banking as a service solution. And basically what we offer there is, on top of issuing cards, we enable our clients to offer payment accounts and digital wallets on a white label basis. And we take care of the tech, the infrastructure, the regulatory, the network connections, and our clients are just have to worry about doing their apps and focusing on CX and customer acquisition, and the rest they just plug into our APIs and they just do their business. So, in a nutshell, that's what we do. So we are originally from Brazil. This year we started to expand outside of Brazil into other Latin American geographies. So we are already issuer processors in Peru. We're setting up in Colombia, and we're setting up in Ecuador as well. And we also have a transaction capturing platform that came with an acquisition that we did this year that's called Muxi, that is already in Argentina, Mexico, and Peru as well. So we're in 6 different countries today, Brazil being the most relevant by far, and we're expanding outside of Brazil now.
And is the vision to expand throughout all of Latin America?
Yeah, so we believe that, what we're seeing in LATAM as a whole, and globally speaking, digital payments is a trend, right? So you're seeing the increased digitalization of payments. Some markets are already quite digital. You have new use cases and new solutions, but people already have a lot of access to digital payments. But when you talk about LATAM, there is still very relevant under-penetration, right? So Brazil Brazil itself is underpenetrated, but if you compare to other geographies such as Mexico, such as Peru and Colombia that I mentioned, we're actually higher penetrated in terms of digital payments than these countries. So what we're seeing is the big revolution that has been happening in Brazil is already starting to happen, is already actually happening, but in an more initial phase in other countries. And we want to be part of that growth and the development of these markets. So yeah, we're expanding and we're seeing ourselves in a couple of years as being ever more relevant in LATAM as a whole.
So you guys just raised a big round, $150 million investment round. Is a lot of that targeted to go to expansion, international expansion?
Yeah. Basically, our main growth focuses are to grow internally in Brazil and continue to grow at the rates that we've grown in the past. I mean, the company has grown at around 45% CAGR ever since Riverwood first invested in us in 2014. Mm-hmm. And we expect, I mean, the market is still very big in Brazil, and we expect to continue to grow at rates at that amount or that level in the next few years. And the money is going to be used in product development, product expansion, and geographical expansion as well. So both of them.
That makes sense. And Marcelo, you mentioned the 46% compounded annual growth rate. Well, can you give listeners a feeling for how many transactions you're processing now, volume, stuff like that?
Sure. So today, to give you a sense of our relevance in Brazil, we process almost 30 million active accounts. So those are cards or digital accounts that are actually used during the month. So they're active. It's a very relevant size. We process today, this year, we're processing over 800 million transactions. And we're almost hitting the mark of 5 million transactions a day. We're probably going to hit that this week, hopefully with Black Friday. So this is, we've been growing a lot, and our volumes have been growing even more than our revenues. I mentioned the 45% CAGR in revenues, but our transaction volumes, which just if you had a sense, we've been growing almost 70% CAGR for the past few years. Wow. So yeah, expansion has been huge. I think that we grow along with our clients, right? And we have lots of digital banks and wallets that are showing expressive growth here in Brazil. They are the challengers of the new market. We also have traditional players that use our platforms as well. So we are very embedded within the Brazilian payments market. So the market grows. We've been growing a lot faster than the market because we're supporting these great companies that are growing using our solutions.
Let's talk about who those clients are. So if you look, is it fair to compare you to, on the US side, to a Marqeta?
Yeah, it is. We do have, the way that we deliver processing, we have an open API platform. So we have more than 600 APIs published for all of the functionalities, like I mentioned, debit, credit, prepaid, etc. The way that we deliver technology and the mindset when we build our platform and evolve it is to enable our clients to connect to the platform without having to depend on us. Because that's something that, if you think about traditional issuer processing in the past,
very different.
Clients dependent on the issuer processor to change anything in their card program, in their app. They had to ask for a project. And what we did here, and we structured ourselves in a way that a client, especially these challenger banks and these newcomers in the market, they have to be very responsive to customer demands and customer inquiries. So they have to be able to define their roadmap very quickly and change what they're doing in their app. So the value proposition here for our issuer processing capabilities is to actually enable them to do that without depending on us.
That's awesome. So can you describe who some of those clients are on the issuer processing side? You mentioned challenger banks. Like, can you talk about, if you can name them by name, or how big that market is, or kind of dynamics around the growth there?
Yeah, we don't talk specifically about clients, Zach, during these things, and this is the simple reason, right? Because we are an infrastructure business, and our clients have the end business, right? So we talk about them usually in buckets. So we have very big. We have retailers, lots of different types of retailers that use our platform to issue branded and private label cards. So private label is actually something interesting here. It's a very relevant market in Brazil because different from the US, when you can have private label cards, more like a loyalty instrument for retailers to have an additional touch point with their clients. In Brazil, that's also a reality, but the population that usually has a private label card, that's unbanked or not underbanked population, right? So people actually need the credit to buy inside the retailer stores, and the retailer usually came to provide that to their clients to help, first of all, to help leverage their retail business. But afterwards, I mean, if it's well managed, it's a very profitable business for them. So this is very common and popular here in Brazil, and we are probably the most relevant processor for retail private label cards. We also have big financial institutions that are launching new products now, and they are you can say the incumbents in the market, but because they're so big, right, and they have a lot of clients and a lot of different niches. For their core portfolios, they still do a lot of things internally, but what's happening in the market for these guys is they are looking to outside of their internal structures to launch new products. So we have from the biggest banks in the country, some of them already launched new products with us, and some of them are on the process of doing so. So this is another market opportunity for us in which these incumbents are launching and reinventing themselves and launching new products, and they're using market providers to do so. And like I mentioned before, we also have like the challenger banks, the neo banks, and these guys that are part of this financial revolution that is going on here in Brazil, that have been growing so much in the past 3 to 4 years, given all of the changes in regulation and the incentive of the central bank to foster competition. And these are, I mean, we've been seeing clients experiencing tremendous growth, and we've been growing alongside with them. And last, and this is a very interesting evolution in the market. I think this is kind of a global trend, but in Brazil, it's happening a lot. With this model of be your own bank, so of the embedded finance opportunity, right? People are talking a lot about that. I think that, in some markets, it already existed when you talked about, like I mentioned, retail. You talk about the retailer offering a credit card, but now a retailer can offer like a digital wallet, a prepaid account, without having to set up a whole financial institution in the back end. They can just use, for example, our banking as a service offering to offer that. And we're seeing several different use cases for several different markets using this infrastructure. And this is I think this is nice to mention. It's part of our vision, and it's part of our value proposition, is to basically democratize payments through technology. So if we imagine and we think that if I can offer a complete solution for my client to offer his end customer, right, in an easy way to implement, and very cost effective, so great value for money for my client, we end up creating more digital accounts in the market, more digital usage of cash, and that has the beneficial effect to the market as a whole of digitalizing the population that doesn't have access to digital payments, right? So that's something that we're doing here as well.
I like that a lot, the embedded model. That's something that we talk a lot about on Tearsheet. Do you also find that you have gig economy clients that are embedding payment experiences into non-financial platforms?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. Actually, some of our clients are gig economy clients. So we have like ride hailing, we have deliveries.
Right.
Yeah, we have some of these clients, different use cases. Some of them are actually use our platform to issue, for example, a prepaid card for their end customer. Some of them use the platform to issue a prepaid card for their
The drivers, the delivery guys.
Drivers, exactly.
Yeah.
So and that's the beauty of the platform, and the way that we deliver it is we're very agnostic in terms of how it can be used. So I mean, there are several different use cases of so we have, for example, companies that are in peer-to-peer lending, and they use our platform to basically to use our APIs to control the money coming from the investor going out to the merchant that's taking the loan, and controlling the receivables from the merchant. They use our banking as a service platform to control that. So that's a use case that is not a typical. If you think about an issuer process or a program manager, it's not a typical use because it's not based on the card. In this case, our client doesn't even have a card associated with its payment accounts. He basically uses us as a way to transfer money around, controlling it through our APIs. So the use cases are infinite for the platform. And we have, like you mentioned, these like gig economy. We have telco providers that are creating payment solutions for the end customers already embedded along with the telephone that they're selling. We have freight forwarders that are using our platform to pay the truck drivers, for example. So we have several different use cases, and basically anyone who wants to offer a payment experience to someone that he has contact with during his day-to-day business can use our platform to do that.
Marcelo, we have time for one last question. And one of the things we heard in the Tearsheet Embedded conference just last week, we had Marqeta there, we had Galileo there, Q2, BBVA, a lot of the big banking as a service platforms, as well as the new issuer processors. Everybody was talking about international expansion, and a lot of them mentioned they were targeting Latin America. Rapid was there too. How do you guys view foreign firms, I guess, coming into your local market? And how do you see competition shaping up there?
Okay, so it's funny because when you talk about payments infrastructure, this is a business that a few years ago people didn't even understand what we're doing, right? And so I mean, people.
And now you're the cool guys.
And now we're like mainstream, you know. And we have to talk about competition and people and other businesses popping up. So it's awesome. It's really exciting, to be honest. So I mean, when we think about locally speaking, we are so well positioned when you talk about Brazil, and like I mentioned before, I think that one of our big differentials when we talk about other players is that we are an end-to-end provider. So we can help companies on the issuing side with banking as a service, but we can also help a company set up their merchant acquiring business. We have software to enable companies to become PayFacs. So we have the end-to-end solutions. So if you think about how the Brazilian market is today, we are very well positioned as a leader here. So of course, if competition comes, and I mean it's going to come because the market is so big, right? And it's a very relevant one. I think that we're ready, and the way that we think about competition is we have to always be one step ahead. So we are always thinking about launching new products, launching new solutions, and that's how we deal with that. And
do you think they'll be successful, these companies?
I think there's room in the market for everyone. We don't expect to lose share. Maybe we're going to compete for new projects and new businesses. But I think that, like I mentioned, since the market is so big, I think there's room for everyone that works well and has a good value proposition for their clients, right? But saying that, another point, it's a different market, right? So you have different integrations, you have different customer needs. It's very different. The way that people use, even though you have an open API platform, the way that people actually consume that and use that in Brazil is different from the US. So I think there are idiosyncrasies in the market that are not, it's just not plug and play. And I mean, everyone knows that, or else they would have already been here more relevantly, right? And in LATAM, it's the same thing, right? Outside of Brazil, if you talk about, like I mentioned, the integrations, local integrations, that's something that in Brazil, you have the benefit actually of, for example, for branded cards, the brands, the networks have their own switches here, right? So Visa, Mastercard, etc. They connect directly with the processors. So if you're a processor outside of Brazil, it's easier to connect to the Brazilian rails than if you're a processor. Then if you're going to connect, for example, in Mexico or in Peru, where you have the local switches that have interaction with the networks, but it's different. So it's not so straightforward to basically go out and expand to another geography. But that said, the same way that we are growing outside of Brazil, and we have big hopes and big expectations to the potential of our growth, I think that there's room in the market for everyone that has a good product.
Marcelo, thanks for joining us on the Tearsheet Podcast today.
Oh, thank you, Zach. It was great. Thanks for the opportunity.